All right, welcome back, generals and admirals. This is General Johnny coming back at you once again with another Broken Arrow deck. And this is one of the basic decks I want to explain here today, but it is also one of the best decks in the game, or at least specializations. Now, you can adjust this how you want, but we will get right into it. Why I think this is one of the perfect decks for beginner and even intermediate players when it comes to special forces and armor. So, without further ado, let's get this one kicked off. Again, General Johnny here, and today we're going to go through by each tab the Special Forces slash Armor Specialization deck for the United States. So, coming up first, we have the Recon tab, and arguably, I think in the US of A, this is the most important specialization because you have such an edge when it comes to USA Recon. And first off, we have the Sentinel. The Sentinel is so good. It does have a little bit more. You'll see speed and turning maneuverability, turning radius, than a lot or some of the other UAVs. And then obviously the 4500 being very good for the ground range, 3200 for the low altitude, and 2000 for the high altitude. So yeah, this will be able to see the furthest, but also it has a stealth rating, which really that's what defines this recon 1.75. So it's really easy if you're running seed, you can pop this sentinel up and you can really just spy on the enemy the entire time and they'll have no idea that you're there. So I highly recommend the sentinel. I buy two of them because like all UAS, they do often go down. But like I said, if you are running the seed correctly, you should have no problem with that. Again, I've already kind of talked about why I think you should only have maximum of two snipers per deck. Okay, maybe three if you want to have room for, if they die. You can call out a third one, but really, snipers are kind of a hit and miss thing. If they die, you're not really going to need them immediately. So I would recommend just running with two here. The Ranger RRC is a decent recon, almost like a force recon unit that can take out APVs and light skin armored vehicles with their Maws. So keep in mind they do have that additional Maws. It's 6-man squad, 30 hit points, 8 armor. So not totally, probably not something you want to go into a head-to-head battle with anybody, but definitely useful. I think the most important thing about this deck, as far as the recon transportation goes, and transportation in general, right, is the RSOV is really good for getting your units out there quickly. As you can see here, they do have a 130 speed, so 130 forward speed, which is a great speed for any transport. But keep in mind, you do not want to get this transport in contact whatsoever. If you get hit in this RSOV, it will instantly die. So um, just beware that it is a very light RSOV. And you only use it for the purpose of getting your infantry out there quickly, or really the recon. So pop that for the snipers is my suggestion, but you can also use it for other infantry as well. The best transport that goes with the spec armor build is going to be the Silent Hawk. This thing has 2.5 stealth rating. It has pretty good speed, and really pretty decent carrying capacity. So 12 carrying capacity. It is going to be able to get your units to where they need to be and with minimum exposure. Now, if you're bringing out middle game and they have a full AA net, yes, it is a little bit more exposed, but at that point, you just need to be smart about where you drop it. But they can even go very close to the front line, and if you know the enemy is lacking on AA, it will have free roam over the entire map, quick, stealthy insert of again up to 12 for that. The STT is good because it comes with a stinger. So it can have that dual role of a recon unit, but also can be a additional asset, especially early game where helicopter rush is definitely a thing. So to knock off those pesky helicopters, you got a stinger, which is pretty cool to have in a recon unit, in my opinion. And my favorite unit actually in the entire game, I think, are these Cav Scouts. 3-man unit, pretty weak if you're going to go to head-to-head combat, but the javelins on them with the 1750 scout range is pretty unbeatable. I would take 3. Heck, I would probably even take 4 if it wasn't such a drain on the economy, but that's up to you. And then I actually really like this CFV, the M3 A4 CFV Bradley variant with the TOW 2. You can see kind of how the upgrade. I actually usually probably run. Actually, that's what I'm going to go ahead and do and save that right now is the Iron Fist active protection on that as well. It's pretty expensive, but as you can see, it's probably the best Bradley fighting vehicle because of as long as you're not trying to actually transport a whole lot of units, which they can carry the Cav Scouts with its 3 seats. It is really good at recon and engaging with its TOW 2. And then the SEP2 or SEP-V2 Tua, again, the recon site's going to be pretty good. I would argue if you can find room to get 2 of these, do that as well. But it's going to be a good tank for 300 is pretty unbeatable at that price range for US. Moving on to the infantry tab, which is really where the special forces excel. You got the Delta Force. I do have 2 of 3, and you can run this and stand on for a close quarter. It just is going to change how you use them. Either way, Delta Force is a really good infantry unit. Just be cautious. If you are running it with a standoff, the Fletcher is the main weapon system that you're going to be using for the standoff. And just keep in mind, 1,000 meters is actually pretty long when you think about infantry. You have 600, 700 meter weapon systems as well. So the further you can get away from the infantry, you don't want to be close to the infantry and fighting and duking it out with infantry. You and taking damage, right, for an expensive unit. For instance, I mean, imagine the Russian equivalent to this mech engineer that can only shoot up to 400 meters. I mean, this almost doubles, actually does, almost doubles the range. And with the Fletcher, it does double the range and plus some. So use it at far range if you're going to do that. And if you're going to go close quarters with it, then go ahead, bring that up in a APV and drop them right into the building, storm that building, and they will absolutely annihilate any infantry. I'm a huge proponent of the Ranger Raws. I don't necessarily. I mean, yes, the Carl G is a is an upgrade. Okay, as far as damage, but I think the Carl Gustav or the M3 Carl Gustav variant is actually better for the price point because you're not spending 100 per unit, which is pretty expensive for an AT unit. You can just have it the same benefits with 3 of these AT weapons. That's pretty unbeatable for the US, who have pretty weak anti-tank infantry to begin with. And then my favorite unit, this is going to be your line infantry unit. The Rangers, okay, I usually use them on standoff. You can use them in close quarter, but if it's going to be an line infantry battle and you want it to be able to counter to the best of its ability, like this is really good because it does have a Rawls, right? It doesn't have 3 of them like the Ranger Rawls, but it does have some AT capability, which is actually pretty effective, especially against AFVs and things of that type. The mech rifleman AA, so the Stinger systems. This is a pretty good system. I would recommend, you could even drop this down to 2. The main addition to what this provides is the AMPV, and the AMPV is actually a really good weapon system. I would again upgrade this if you can find the points to the Iron Fist APS. It's going to bump it up to 145. There is a purpose for having it as the default 100. I would just recommend really having the Javelin Bushmaster, because basically it's an additional Javelin system. So if you're really taking count, right, this is almost like just bringing another Cav Scout, except it's mobile, armored, and all of that. So again, I would recommend upgrading that if you can find the points. The Bradley ESV does come with 6 seats. This is a variant. The Blam is going to really affect more infantry than the counter tank and IFV weapon system with the TOW 2. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it's still a pretty good weapon system. The main reason I got this was because it's 70, and then obviously that's paired with the mech engineers, which is going to be a great counter infantry line infantry. So you can put this, so because they have the 2 times shotguns, they can really do well in close quarter. Now, I wouldn't say they delete things in close quarter the same way a close quarter Delta Force would, but they're pretty good in close quarter, especially against a lot of normal Russian infantry. And then you also have 5 of these small Ds, which is really, that's kind of ridiculous if you think about it, which can really affect other infantry units at a decent range. 400 meters, explosive damage is pretty good there. So that's my infantry tab, and that's probably one of the most impressive things about the special force contribution to this deck is the recon and infantry tab. And then obviously, it's either you have it or you don't. And this is the biggest contribution of the armor tab, besides Bradley's, is the fact that you can bring Abrams, right? So in a lot of the other decks, that's what it lacks, or others decks lack in the US, is bringing adequate Abrams. All right, here I have the M1A2 SEP, uh, and that's going to be 270 points. Now, you can bring, I would say, the V2. I would definitely recommend also bringing the V2 and then the SEP. I'd never really bring the SEP V3, so just keep that in mind. I know I've said it before, but I think V2 does the same job. It's a bit less, and I don't know why I didn't have that upgraded, but you definitely want the APS and full TUS 2 armor with that variant. So that'll bring it up to 350 points there. And I'm at exactly 1,000, which is really nice here. So, and then you fill out the rest of the tank tab with the M1A2 SEP. So total tanks you're counting here is three tanks here, and then 6 total tanks, 2 of which have a trophy system. So make sure you pair this up with a tank that doesn't have a trophy system as a little micro piece of advice. As far as the support tab, I think the support tab is really important. Um, and usually what hurts you is what you don't have rather than what you do have. And what I mean by that is, for instance, the M Shorad is a really key piece to any deck. All right, you're gonna want to counter cruise missiles and things of that nature, right? And then you always bring, in my opinion, Patriot, in this case a pack 2, not the best, but since it's super cheap, it is going to help definitely bring the 4 missile variant. 2 missile variant, in my opinion, is pretty much worthless. And then you can have the MLRS. I would recommend that you bring at least 1 MLRS on your deck. And then 2 Iron Thunders. I'm actually not a huge fan of Iron Thunders in general as I play this game further. I think they're pretty expensive and they kind of suck away a lot of your money. However, I do like them in the fact that they can counter both infantry, light skin APVs, and do some damage against the enemy support tab as well. And the helicopters in this tab, or in this deck rather, are really, really good. So we have Stingers. So I put 2 Stingers and 2 Hellfire missiles on your AH6 killer eggs. Now, the killer eggs is what a lot of people describe as just a quick response to any threat. So, the kind of oh shit button. So I can press this 4 times for relatively cheap. I mean, 85 for something that is that mobile, has that kind of speed as a helicopter, right, to get over to the enemy and take out. Really, they're going to be used as an anti-helicopter deterrent with the Stingers, but you can also use it. That's why I kind of added on these Hellfires. If you are getting broken through by, let's say, a BMP rush or something, and you just need something, maybe your Comanches are on cooldown, you just need something to repel that attack, you can get 4 of these relatively easily, or you can make a helicopter push on the flank and add this, and it'll really increase just the number and the pure mass of helicopters that you have going against the enemy. And the next thing I have is the R8 H-66 Comanche helicopter with 2,400 meter optics and the 2.5 stealth rating. Obviously, the 2.5 stealth rating being the most impressive thing on this helicopter. As you can see, outperforms pretty much everything else. So what that's going to do is it's going to add some kind of unseen protection, no pun intended, to the enemy AA system. So just keep that in mind. I would put this on a flank. I would, bring this up. It can be a real surprise to the enemy to see this thing flying around, and with all maxed out with Hellfire missiles. Now, this is up to you. You can also add in the Hydra missiles. In my opinion, not really worth it for the Hydra missiles. And if you get the or at least because there's only 14 of them. Now, if you got 2 slots for the Hydra missiles, yeah, that would actually bring it down pretty cheap, but then you only get these Hellfire missiles. So I don't necessarily, I'm not a huge advocate for that kind of build on it. Obviously, you do want the extended range to see with the radar. I think it's definitely worth that extra 20 points. Um, but yeah, I would definitely recommend run this with all Hellfires. You can bring 1 set of Stingers. Again, I view this as more of a anti-tank helicopter, and then obviously I would bring this in against enemy helicopters. I don't see the point in fighting enemy helicopters with something with this kind of stealth rating unless you just want to be a little bit cheeky. As far as I bring 2 of the Chinooks just for supply drop if I do want to do an early rush with infantry, which is really important on this. Because you're going to be using infantry heavily in this deck, is to bring something that has pretty good carrying capacity for that, and then kind of an intermediate supply run helicopter, or also to bring troops in, but really supply, or excuse me, this MH60M DAP isn't actually for supplies. This is for anti-infantry. So what I have set up here is I have the 38 Hydra rockets and 14 Hydra rockets. So, quick math, whatever that is, 52 or whatever. Amount of Hydra rockets is going to, for 150, is actually really cheap. Now, this thing is going to get shot down super easy. It's super slow. So this is kind of more of a last ditch effort to kill the enemy infantry, or if you are sneaky and you just need something quick to help your infantry in a battle and you want to give them that edge, you can sneak this up really quickly, and then micro it in and out of the buildings, shoot off the 52 Hydra rockets or whatever that number is, and then get out of dodge. And then for the air tab, you can do a lot of different things, especially with this build. So I would suggest maybe looking at running the JADAM. Right now I have 2 LJDAM. So either way, with the basic loadout of this Raptor, and the big advantage of the Raptor is the 1.75 stealth rating. I mean, most normal jets, and I don't really have it in this deck, but most normal jets are running at like a 1 or a flat 1 stealth rating. So The fact that this is a 1.75 is a real good upgrade. So it's gonna affect the survivability. You can put two LJ dams mostly for anti-infantry, or if you want to do precision strikes on things like AA nets, then this is pretty good for that as well. And then lastly, you have the Nighthawk equipped with two JASMs. Quite expensive to actually equip the JASMs now that I'm looking at it, but you can cycle these in and out for relatively, I mean, 300 for two JASMs. Now, compared to what the Russians can bring to bear as far as cruise missiles, yeah, it is pretty expensive just for two. But the advantage is you have the stealth rating. This is 10,000 meters range on that as well. And then you have a max speed of 1080. So this is pretty good. Cruise missiles. Again, you can fire this at AA nets. You can kill, immobilized tanks. You can kill infantry. So this has a lot of purposes, and if you know how to use it well, it can be really good in your deck. And so that's everything I have for you all today as far as the armor spec op build for Broken Arrow USA. You guys go get them, stick it to the Russians. No, I'm just kidding. I actually love playing Russia in this game, but I think it's more challenging to play US. But this is a really good build for beginners, and really hitting on the whole deck in general. The stealth, right, is really good. The infantry is really good, and then obviously for beginners to intermediate players, it's always nice to have an armored option. Okay, so that those are kind of the advantages to this deck. Thanks again for joining. This is General Johnny, and I'll be going through a bunch of different decks in the future. Stay tuned and good luck. Have fun, generals and admirals. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and see you next time.